Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to attach a fly line to a new reel. As you can see on this fly reel, there's just backing on it. What we need to add is a 100-foot fly line to go trout fishing. Sometimes when you buy a new fly line, it will come with a ready-made loop at the end of the fly line, but sometimes it doesn't. In order to avoid needing to go into a fly shop just to simply attach a line, I'm going to go ahead and show you a knot that can help you get your fly line on your fly reel and hopefully get you out fishing sooner. Some people like to attach a fly line to a reel with a nail knot. Today I'm going to teach you a knot that I use commonly, which is the Albright knot. As you can see, there's backing on my reel. I did have this put on with a machine. It's really important so that there's enough room to fit your fly line that your backing is put on your reel correctly. Oftentimes, fly shops will do this free of charge. You can go in and they'll go ahead and use a machine to put the backing on your reel. This machine puts it nice and tight against the reel so that your fly line will fit on top of it and it won't feel really bunched. Backing is the extra line that you'll see behind your fly line on a fly reel. This is important because if we get into a really large fish, it might take us all the way through our fly line and need to go into the backing. We don't see this all the time when trout fishing, but certainly when saltwater fishing, those big saltwater species will run hundreds of feet in just a couple seconds, in which case you're going to be out of your fly line and need to go into your backing. We know what fly line does. It allows us to cast our flies because it's a weighted line. Typically these fly lines are around 100 feet long. Obviously, if you're going to catch a fish that wants to go farther than 100 feet, we need to have extra line. That's why we have the backing. Backing essentially extends the line in case your fish runs farther than the length of your fly line. It's really important to have backing on all your reels, and oftentimes you can leave the same backing on through several fly lines. When you need a new fly line, you don't need to necessarily replace the backing, typically just the fly line. I often go through fly lines once a year. This is just because I tend to be a little bit rough with my fly lines. They tend to get cracked and dry here in Colorado. It depends on where you live and how often you go fishing in terms of how often you need to replace your fly line. So you don't always have to replace the backing every time you replace a fly line. Keep that in mind. Once it's put on professionally at a fly shop once, you can essentially leave it on there. Today, we're going to take this 5-weight fly line and put it on my reel. So you can go ahead and take the fly line out of the box. You'll see here that right away I don't see that ready-made loop on the end. So I'm going to need to tie this directly to my backing. I can't do a loop-to-loop connection. So what I'm going to do in this specific case is use an Albright knot. It can be a complicated knot to learn, but the more you practice it, the better at it you'll get. I'm going to go ahead and take off both the pipe cleaners on the fly line. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I leave the fly line on this plastic case that it comes in, because it's really important when we're reeling it onto our reel that it stays on this. It's going to be a nightmare if you take it off and it's all over the floor. Go ahead and set that down on the side. Take the end of your backing. What you want to do with your fly line is create a small loop at the end, just like this. Then you're going to go ahead and feed the backing through the loop going from the bottom to the top. This is where it gets a little bit complicated because you have to practice it a few times. So once I feed it through the bottom to the top, I pinch the loop and the backing. Make sure you feed through enough backing. I like to say maybe 6 or 7 inches of backing through that little loop. Then, once you're pinching both the backing and the loop, you're going to go ahead and take that tag end of backing and bring it through again, facing towards the reel, which is over here, facing towards the running line on the reel. You're going to go ahead and start to very tightly and neatly wrap that backing around the loop, moving towards the reel and the running line. I'm going to do this maybe 8 times. I've already lost count, but I'm guessing I'm getting close. You just want it to be a nice secure knot. Then, as you can see, this part, remember, came up through the bottom. As you can see, this first piece of running line backing, when we first brought the backing towards the fly line, we put it up through the bottom of the loop. Now I have this tag end of backing. I want to put it through the top of the loop. So as I pinch that knot, just to make sure none of those coils come undone, Make sure it's nice and tight. If you let go of it, redo them. And send it back through the top. Once it's through the top, you can go ahead and pull on the long line and the short line. This is when we start to cinch the knot close to the end of the backing. Sometimes I'll even use my teeth to kind of pull it. There we have it. Do you see how that knot cinched down? Mine's not as pretty as I would like. I would probably go ahead and redo this knot, but as you can see, this knot's great for being able to attach two lines together that are not of similar diameter. For example, backing and fly line. Remember when we were tying knots with the surgeon's knot? That was simply for lines of similar diameter, lines that were similar in size. Obviously, this is a super thick fly line. This is a really thin piece of backing. We needed to figure out a way to attach them in a super secure knot, so we did the Albright knot. What I would do now is I would cut the tag end to get rid of those. Try and cut the tag end as close as you can to the knot. You don't want a bunch of extra tag or materials in the way. And you can see, even as I'm pulling it, say you are tying this knot to go onto a saltwater line and reel. This knot's really important that it's done correctly. The reason why is if you do go saltwater fishing, it's very likely you're going to go into your backing. If you catch a huge fish in saltwater, which is totally possible, and it takes you into your backing, and you have not done this knot correctly, there's a huge chance you're going to lose that fish in your entire fly line. So it's always a good idea to practice this knot. Make sure you have it down securely. Make sure that it's super strong before you head out in the water. Okay, so we successfully put on the line to our reel by attaching the fly line to the backing using an Albright knot. Now we need to get the line onto our fly reel. If you're not careful in this process, it can become very messy and you can end up with a lot of tangles in your fly line. Because a fly line is brand new, it's going to be very kinky and there's going to be lots of coils in it. So the easiest thing to do is to leave your fly line in this spool. We're going to show you how to do this, but have somebody help you by putting a pen through this little hole right here. They're going to hold it and you're just going to wind the line onto the reel. Since I don't have anyone here with me right now, I'm going to go ahead and use this pen right here that I attached to my table. As you can see, there's a tiny hole right here on the spool of the line. I'm going to go ahead and stick the pen through this, just like here. And I'm going to go ahead and start to reel the line onto my reel. You want to make sure you're holding the reel as it would sit on its rod. So I have the handle on the left side since I'm right-handed and I reel with my left hand. I like to go ahead and guide the line onto the reel by using my middle finger and my pointer finger. This is important to make sure that the line goes on nice and tight and even. If you don't do this, you might end up with a bunch of line on one side of the reel and not enough on the other. So as you start to reel up the line, just imagine you're evenly spreading the line across the reel. Just like so. And you'll start to get some natural tension. If someone's holding that, it's even better, but this works just fine too. So as you can see, I'm making sure to guide that line on so that it covers all parts of the reel. If you do this right the first time, it's not going to be a problem later, but you can always fix this later on if you need to. On that same note, if you are going to take a line off, just to change up lines and the line's not necessarily damaged and you want to use it again, I recommend taking lines off in a very similar way. Have an empty spool. Essentially do the opposite thing, wind it onto a spool versus just taking it off your fly line onto the floor, because you'd be amazed how tangled these fly lines can get. It's always best if you can go directly from a spool to a reel or from a reel to a spool. So as you can see, I'm getting it nice and even. I'm noticing there are some gaps where I don't have enough. I'm going to try and fill that as I keep going around. I think it is easier to use a person because that person can kind of pull back on the spool and create more tension. And they can also hold on to the line that's coming out of the spool to make sure that there's a little bit more tension as well. The more tension, the cleaner and the easier it's going to go onto your fly reel. So if you're going to do this, I recommend finding a friend to help you out. There's the end of our fly line. As you can see at the very end of the fly line, once we put it on our reel, there is a ready-made loop that's been prepared. This is great because when we want to add our leader, we just do a super simple loop-to-loop connection, and that's how you put a new fly line on a reel.